Now let's welcome on stage the future of the global financial system by Professor Berg, also from RMIT.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having us. I'm going to talk about the future of the financial system, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to sort of show you the way both Jason and I have been sort of struggling with understanding why crypto is so interesting. I've been doing this for about 9 years. I first started writing about Bitcoin in 2013, and throughout that period, I, like Jason, have been trying to figure out, we know crypto is interesting, we know blockchain is interesting, we know it's important. What we're going to try to do, what Jason has done, what I'm going to try to do today, is try to explain why we currently think that it is. And this is going to be my argument. Now, at RMIT Blockchain Innovation Hub, we've been publishing lots of things. Jason was talking about the institutional crypto economics model of blockchain technology that we published a couple of years ago. We've done lots of things. I've got a paper here that I wrote quite a few years ago trying to compare blockchain technology to ancient Mesopotamia. I'm not sure that paper really works, but it's very funny. Really what we've been doing is trying to understand blockchain from as many economic angles, social science angles as possible, and come to a conclusion about, well, again, why is it important? So today I'm going to present what I currently think is the answer to that question. I'm going to start really with actually a similar digital transformation that has occurred through my lifetime. Between 1998 and 2014-ish, something like that, the internet fundamentally came from newspapers. At this time, I was actually writing newspaper op-eds in Melbourne. I was able to see this really close up. And what happened in that period is that the bottom absolutely fell out of the media landscape. The advertising that had backed up the newspaper industry since the 19th century completely evaporated and went almost entirely digital. This is the Australian advertising expenditure. I've seen similar numbers about Vietnamese advertising expenditure, but you can see from about 2003-ish, something like that, that online just takes off and print media advertising expenditure just collapses. It was a fundamental revolution in the way the industry functioned itself. The journalism industry is nothing like it was when I was writing those op-eds, when a senior politician could just call the editor of a newspaper and get positive coverage based on that. The entire print media industry and the entire political system changed as a result of this digital transformation. The argument I'm going to make here is that happened about 20 years ago, or it started about 20 years ago. But now, finally, with crypto and blockchain, the internet is finally coming for finance. Now, obviously, digital technology has been a fundamental part of the financial industry since the 1980s, even earlier as well. They were one of the first industries to seriously start experimenting with with large-scale data management. But it was a very incomplete revolution. They were able to get the sort of communications, the digital technologies that Jason was talking about, but they weren't able to do the really fundamental base digitization, not just of the information about assets, but of the assets themselves. And with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, that's what we have finally managed to do. We have managed to make it so that every single asset in the economy is becoming a truly digital asset. Now it's kind of hard for us to see in the cryptocurrency industry, in the blockchain industry, because of course we're focused very much on a new class of digital assets, a new class of assets that back up economic infrastructure like Ethereum, a new class of assets that compete with traditional financial assets like Bitcoin, might be digital gold or money or so forth. And we're trying to build alternatives to the traditional financial asset system. But I know in Australia and around the world that all the major financial institutions right now are working on using digital infrastructure, blockchain digital infrastructure, Ethereum and smart contract layers to build out traditional financial assets into these purely digital assets themselves. I mean, what are those digital assets, of course? So for example, we're talking about turning fixed income products into digital assets. We're talking into mortgage securities into digital assets, all on native crypto blockchains and on platforms like Ethereum as well. This is not being widely advertised, but in Australia, where obviously I do most of my work, every single major bank, every single major brokerage firm, every single major tech platform is trying to build out digitized assets on cryptocurrency and blockchain rails in order to take advantage of those the things like instant settlement or atomic settlement and smart contracts, decentralized finance, and all the DeFi platforms that we built in order to fundamentally transform their product suites and their offerings. Now, I say that every asset is a digital asset, but we, in this room, of course, we know exactly what that means. Every asset is a digital asset, which means every digital asset is fundamentally just a smart contract. Every digital asset is a smart contract that details out, like a traditional contract, but online, all the rules and rights that ownership of that asset allows. The rules by which it might be transferred, the rules by which you might exchange or you might borrow against it. That's all built into these smart contracts, but done so on a fundamentally digital platform. If every asset is a smart contract, of course, what do we mean by smart contracts? We mean that really every smart contract is fundamentally just binary logic. It's binary logic on a computer. This is what digital means. Why is that important? So we all understand this. I mean, we all work with computers every day. Nobody touches the binary logic. But economists and computer scientists have been trying to understand for many decades now, since the Second World War, what the fundamental unit of information is. The fundamental unit of information is binary logic. It's in the word. It's in digital. It means just, how can we reduce information to its most core theoretical minimum constituent part? Binary logic, ones and zeros. If every asset is fundamentally being reduced to its core information, to its theoretical minimum that is required to communicate with each other, that's the revolution. That's what I think that we have changed. Now, of course, we did this with the newspaper industry. We managed to take news, information, we managed to take all my old opinion pieces, we managed to take the journal articles that Jason and I and VU and who you'll meet in a moment and Ben, we write and we work and we managed to communicate with each other using binary logic, and we've managed to do so for now a very long time. That revolution in journalism is now 20 years old. But we couldn't do so for finance. And we couldn't do so for finance for a really basic problem, that we didn't have blockchain technology. We knew how to reduce information about assets to their constituent parts, but we didn't know how you could add that trust layer, how the assets themselves could be digital. Not just the information about assets, but the assets themselves are now fundamentally digital units. Digital units that can be traded and built and recomposed and so forth. And that's how we get to not just DeFi, but that's how we get to a truly digital financial system. When we've got information about assets, plus a trust layer, plus a consensus over what those assets and those rules actually are, that's how we build a truly digital financial system, and through it to that truly digital economy that Jason was talking about. So, but why does this matter? It's wonderful to build digital assets. I love digital assets. I think the fundamental point about digital assets that have been built through DeFi and NFTs, built on blockchains, is this basic idea of composability. It's the idea that we can take any asset, whether it is a piece of art in the case of NFTs, whether it's a fixed income product, whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's a money, whether it's a mortgage-backed security, and we can compose it with each other. We can take that asset and we can put it into a pool of other assets that relate to nothing other, that have no other relation, but they are composable, that they are digital according to simple basic standards. I can't actually see that from here. It's in there. How long have I got? 5 minutes. Okay, fantastic. There's a time signature, but it's right behind the lights. I think that's basically what's interesting about digital assets, that they're composable. Now, I should point out though, all assets in the economy are composable. It's just it's very expensive to do so. You have to hire a lot of lawyers. I can make any asset I own composable if I call enough lawyers, if I call enough people in suits to write contracts so that I can borrow against the assets that I hold. But crypto has basically reduced this cost through smart contracts to basically zero. Every asset is fundamentally composable because every asset is a fundamentally digital asset. Now, why does composability matter? I want to make a really simple point here. Composability matters because it's composability that gives us innovation. In fact, this is some of Jason's research, some of my colleague Darcy Allen's research. Where does innovation come from? It comes from the mixing and matching of different ideas, different asset classes, different entrepreneurial energies into new ideas. The vision of the world that we have about where does innovation come from isn't the lone genius sitting in their room, or the lone asset manager just managing a particular type of class of digital assets. It's multiple assets, multiple ideas, mixing and matching together. That's where we get innovation from. That's why composability matters. And obviously, why does innovation matters? It could be because fundamentally there's nothing else. It is only through innovation that we get economic growth, prosperity, and human flourishing. That is my answer to the question of why blockchain and cryptocurrency is interesting. It's taken me a very long time to get here, but it's because we've managed to reduce assets, the financial building block of the economy, into their core, their most basic constituent parts. We've managed to take financial assets, we've made them composable, we've brought them to the absolute limit of composability. And through that, we get a step change in economic growth and prosperity. That's me. I'm from the Blockchain Innovation Hub, like Jason, like V. Please visit our website, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Berg.